Joining me now is one of my favorite people in the world, Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs for the U.S. Treasury under President Trump, Monica Crowley. She also is the host for the Monica Crowley podcast, available wherever you get your podcast. Monica, how are you?
Glenn, it is so good to be here with you, my friend. Long time.
I know.
Great to see you.
I know. Listen, I've been hearing you on the financial situation, and you're on the inside. First of all, I can't read this any other way than China, Russia, Saudi Arabia now. All of them are finding an exit to the U.S. dollar. Am I reading that correctly? And what does that mean, if so?
Well, first, Glenn, thank you so much for having me. And I do want to clarify, I am the former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. I served in the Trump administration. Yeah. I would never be caught dead serving this administration.
Right. Sorry.
To your question, this is a very, very dangerous moment for a lot of different reasons, because it's really hard to overstate how catastrophic it would be if the world abandoned the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency.
Can you put that into context at all? I don't think people understand. They hear people say, oh, it'd be catastrophic. No. Explain, what does that mean to the average person?
Sure. Well, at the end of World War II, because the United States emerged so victorious, it was settled upon that the dollar would be the global reserve currency, meaning the default currency for trade and other global transactions around the world. We have abused that privilege, Glenn, over many decades on both sides of the aisle, as well as the Federal Reserve Bank, by printing so much money that we have devalued the dollar over time. And there's a lot of blame to go around. But as the world's reserve currency, that has been a privilege, and it has been a source of tremendous economic power for the United States. If that were to go away and the dollar were no longer the world's reserve currency, you would see a tremendous economic collapse here at home and globally. You'd have a global economic implosion. You would also have the end of America's economic dominance, and you would have the end of America's superpower status. What does it mean to you and me and to the average American? Well, if that were to happen, Glenn, you would see prices spike beyond anything imaginable. We would have Weimar Republic kind of hyperinflation in this country and around the world. So the effects would be absolutely catastrophic, and we would not be able to project either economic, diplomatic, or military power around the world.
So do you think that they are building the FedNow system and the CBDC? Do you think that this is their plan to, when it just can't run any farther and it collapses, they just dump us into an entirely new system and they introduce a Federal Reserve coin?
That is exactly the plan. And I know a lot of people say it's a conspiracy theory. No, it is not. In fact, most Western nations right now, including the U.S. Treasury under Joe Biden, have a pilot program in place to test the viability of a central bank digital currency. Let's take one step back, Glenn. Let's remember that the U.S. dollar was backed over time by a number of different things. It was backed for a long time by gold, a hard asset. My old boss, President Nixon, took the United States off the gold standard, and he told me in the early to mid 1990s when I was working for him that was one of his biggest mistakes, because it untethered the dollar to any kind of hard asset, which then allowed government spending to explode and allowed the Fed to just print without wild abandon, right? And that put us on the back heel. But the other things that backed up the US dollar were America's economic strength and dominance, and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars.
Correct.
If that were to go away, okay, that would be the end of the dollar. And that's why now, Glenn, you have this confluence of very dangerous trends happening where you've got Biden's weakness, you've got his war on American domestic energy production, you've got the Ukraine war, and as you mentioned, we've got America's enemies led by China, but also Russia and Iran and others. And now you have Saudi Arabia saying, we might be interested in taking a look at taking other currencies in exchange for oil. If that were to happen, that is the end of the dollar. You are going to have a massive economic implosion of the kind that we have never seen. And then to your point, the end game is to introduce a central bank digital currency where the Fed is going to be your bank. It's not going to be your community or regional bank. It's not even going to be one of the big banks like Bank of America or Wells Fargo. The Fed will be your bank. Your money will essentially be software. It'll be a number in software, nothing physical, nothing tangible.
And programmable.
And programmable. And Glenn, that means if we get to that point, they will have absolute control over how you buy, how you sell, when you can spend your own quote unquote money. It will mean the end of your economic freedom. And the American people are not focused on this. So I thank you for bringing it to everybody's attention, because this is a very dark road that we're going down.
And it is also logical. I mean, if you've been paying attention since 2008, you saw the Fed violate everything, absolutely every common sense economic law. We violated. No way out, no way out. Trust the system, trust the system. At some point, they were like, this ain't going to work. How do we get out? The logical way is to control the collapse. It will eventually collapse and reset it. And you know there's going to be turmoil. So make sure you can control the people and their spending.
That's it. And they want to position themselves as being the rescuers, right? Riding to the rescue of this grave global and domestic economic collapse. And they're going to be prepared to say, just like they did with COVID, oh, here, we've got the solution. We can alleviate your problems. Here is a central bank digital currency. What that really means is a cashless society. So there will be nothing physical in your hand. All of your money will be in a digital mode, okay? And that will give them the ability to turn you on and off. If you overstep your carbon footprint, they'll be able to shut off your ability to buy gas or to buy food or to buy airline tickets. They'll be able to turn off your car remotely. I know this sounds like Jetsons kind of stuff, Glenn, but it is literally right around the corner. And given what we've been through over the last 3 years, we've seen what the deep state, and there is a deep economic state as well, what they are all capable of.
Monica, thank you so much. It's good to see you again. We'll talk again soon. Thanks for watching this. God bless. All right, more on this on tomorrow's radio program. From Dallas, good night, America.